Hey friends, today I am going to be talking about another piece of kit that I have, which is a set of diopters, where what it allows you to do, as you saw from that intro, turn any lens into a macro lens. I'm going to put this down. As I've said in other videos, I want to try and learn everything I can about all my gear, and while I'm doing that, I want to share that information with you. Also, I'm trying different places in my apartment to find out where's the best to kind of film. This is a little bit of a void with this. Also, my plant this one doesn't like the sun. Yeah. Anyway, the joys of having plants and them all requiring different things but being in the same location because you don't have the space. So I want to talk about these diopters, and the diopters I'm talking about are the Vivitar Series 1. I'm not kidding. A set of these, depending on the size of the thread of your lenses, is only going to set you back between $20 and $30 Canadian. So like $10, $15, maybe $20 US. That's crazy. That's crazy. All the shots that you saw at the beginning, except for the very first one where the bag is being put down, all were shot using the diopter on the front of one of these lenses. So I've been shooting the last few videos, and this one included, on my anamorphic lenses, my Laowa nanomorph lenses to be specific. So you can turn anamorphic lenses that are notorious for having not very good close focus into close focus. Like, I took a photo of the setup of putting the lenses at minimum focus. The lens I was using on that was the 35mm, and I put the lens to the minimum focus with the cup that you saw, and then added each of the diopters onto the front to see just how much it reduced the focal distance, right? And made it close focus. And as you can see, you can get so close to the lens, it's actually insane. I shot other stuff the other day on a 50mm. I mean, the downside, really, unless you start cranking up the lights and take the aperture down, is it's really hard to find the focus. It becomes so razor thin when you get to like the bigger magnifications. It just looks so good. It looks so good. It allowed me to get shots that I otherwise couldn't. Like where the little coffee machine is in my apartment's in like next to a narrow entrance to the hallway. So finding somewhere to put the camera was really difficult. I had to move the trash can, and even then I couldn't get back far enough. I even had to switch to the 27mm because I couldn't get a wide enough frame because I was so close, because it's acting like a magnifier. So it's magnifying the lens, allowing you to get theoretically closer and giving you a closer field of view. And then also it's making it shallower, right? Like, look at the examples I put on the screen throughout this, and you'll see just like how razor thin it is and how shallow that depth of field becomes. For the coffee grinder shot, I used the +10, I think, and I had to stop down the lens to like T8 or T11 just to get enough depth of field, because even then it's like trying to move that back and forth, because you can't really move the camera. The camera is, unless you're using a smaller setup. As you'll see in some of the behind the scenes, I'm using a Benro BV10, which is a pretty heavy duty professional tripod, and I'm using the red. So moving all that, we're looking at a setup of like 20 pounds, maybe just a little bit over. Trying to move that around and like adjust the legs on my own was such a pain that it was easier to move the objects to the camera. But when you're dealing with such a shallow depth of field, like millimeters, fractions of millimeters can be the difference of you being in focus and not. And you can see how soft the image is because of that exaggerated depth of field. And so it also feels soft on top because on the 35mm, I shot about half to like 2/3 of it all on the 35mm Laowa nanomorph with an 1/8 Black Pro mist on it, which basically lives on that lens. It's my go-to lens, gives it a nice softer look. I really do think it adds to the dreaminess of it. And in the previous videos, you'll see how kind of blurred out when we're shooting towards a window, how much that image can look like that. Right now I'm shooting on the 50mm, that's why you don't have any of the bloom coming from these windows, but if I had the Pro Mist on there, it would probably have something, right? It would feel a little more glossy. And the 10x diopter, I showed some images of just how crazy that looks, because it's essentially a fisheye. Like, that's wild. That's milk bottle glasses that you'd see in a movie, like comical, absolutely comical. That's a desirable look of my face. It's nuts how much it can really kind of change the field of view. You can even see, like, I have the Amaran P2C tube that I'm using as one of my lights. The other one was the Aperture MC. When that light is behind the lens, you can still see it because it's so fisheye. It wasn't getting in through the back. It was quite literally just wrapping around so much that you can see it in some of the framing. It comes as the Series 1 set. I believe it's all the same when whatever thread size you choose. It's a +1, a +2, a +4, and a +10. So it's a set of 4. One thing that's wild that I didn't even think to try until this video, these are all screw-in filters. So whether you get a smaller thread or a larger thread or whatever it might be, I have the 95mm because I bought them to cover a bigger anamorphic lens that I have, which is the Vazen 40mm. And you could get like an attachment that could add screw-in filters. So I got that for coverage of that. Didn't end up working out. So I use a step-down ring that goes from 77mm to the 95. So I got this because that way I'm covered on pretty much any lens that I use going forward, unless we're talking about the huge ones that have like 114mm diameter, but it should still cover the lens part of that, just not the thread. It has threads on the inside too, so you can stack them up and get different looks. I was trying to shoot the staring shot, and a 4 wasn't gonna cut it, and then 10 was too much. So I stacked them up and I was like, oh, that actually works. Like you can do that. Or you could put the diopter on first and then add a filter on top of it. You could add an ND on top of it. I don't utilize these enough because there's so many times where I've just never really had to do macro, so it's a little bit more niche. And I think a lot of people feel the same as me, where it's nice to have a macro lens, but you don't need one. It is more specialty. It's like a probe lens or something like that. You just aren't using it every single day unless you're doing such specific shots. But yeah, I just wanted to cover these because I just find them so interesting. And the fact that I can turn, these already small anamorphic lenses, where the close focus distance, I think the closest one is the 27, maybe. There's a chart. But if you needed to get a specialty shot, like you're shooting a phone or you're shooting a ring or you're shooting something, getting a really unique, interesting shot, you need a macro lens. I mean, that's kind of it. There's not really a ton of extra stuff to say. I think that they don't impact the quality of the lens too much. They come in multiple thread sizes. If you do get it, I highly recommend getting them bigger than what your thread size is and using step-down rings, because then you're just covered for whatever lenses that you're using. For $30, I think I paid maybe a bit more because it's a 95mm, because it's a bigger piece of glass. But if most lenses are like 82, 77, that's the larger size when you get into stills or like some cinema lenses. $30 to turn any lens into a macro lens is a steal, is an absolute bargain. Yeah, I really like them. I have found some utility for them in a couple things. I don't want to spend hundreds or thousands of dollars on a macro lens that I might use once or twice, but I'm okay paying $30 to maybe use it once or twice. That's 2 cinema tickets in Canada. Well, no, not Evie. Christ, the price has gone up so much. Oh, that's depressing. But yeah, that's kind of it. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. Like, where do you think you would use these? Do you think that they're worth it? What did you think of the footage at the beginning? Don't be too harsh, okay? It was a diopter example, not a lighting example. But let me know your thoughts. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.